From barking, 7 a.m. in the morning, she's
What's up,
calling.
everybody? Welcome to Angie's Angle. Thank you for tuning into the Red Zone. It's been a hot minute. We actually recorded this before, but it wasn't at the quality that I wanted it to be at, so we're redoing it. And I want everybody to please give a warm welcome to Sam. Sam, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Angie?
I'm good. I'm good. Just tell everybody a bit about yourself, and then we can run with it.
Okay, yeah, I'm Sam. I'm doing life down here in Kansas, down in the lower states. I know you guys are up there in Canada, and I'm down here doing a life sentence, and about 17 years in, see a parole board in a couple years, and so yeah, I'm just kind of hanging out down here for right now.
So, are you originally from Kansas, or where are you originally from?
No, I'm originally from Washington State.
Okay, Washington.
So I'm a long ways from home, about like 2,200 miles. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. And Sam, earlier when we were talking, I told Sam to click his feet 3 times so he can go back home, but easier said than done, eh?
yeah. I'm clicking them, but I'm feeling stuck.
Right. I know. It'd be like, but so you said that you actually are there for life. Do you want to tell, comfortable about the crime that you committed?
Yeah. I don't feel. Yeah. I just jumped in a car one night with one of my buddies. He was selling drugs, and it was one of those things where I knew that I probably shouldn't be going here, and I just kind of jumped in anyways. What I thought was loyalty, and I jumped into the car, and he had got a bunch of drugs robbed from him, and he had took them on a front, and so they weren't his, and the people above him said he needed to get them back or they were going to kill him. And so it just kind of one thing led to another, and a guy ended up dying that night, and it was accidental, but at the end of the day, it was just drug world type stuff, and just young and dumb, and didn't really take the time to think through what I was doing. So yeah, that's kind of the skinny of it. I mean, there's obviously a lot that happens in a night, dealing with drugs and selling drugs, and having to pay people that you owe. So it's but that's kind of the skinny of it.
So how old were you when this crime took place?
I was 22. I was in college. I'd come down here to kick the dope habit. And I was still drinking a little bit, but I was in college. I was starting my next semester, and I was doing all right. I mean, I was drinking, so I wasn't exactly living my best life, but I wasn't on hard drugs anymore. But I was 22 years old.
And so the person that you got in the car with, was it like a friend? Was it someone that you knew? Like, how did you guys meet?
That was my best friend. He was my best friend, and he was still, obviously, selling stuff, and I'd quit doing it. I don't know, for a couple months. I just kind of hung my hat up and stopped, and he'd stayed in it.
He stayed in it. Now, is he also serving a life sentence, or is he?
Yeah, yeah, he is. He also got a life sentence.
Is he at the same prison that you're at right now, or no?
Yes.
Oh, so he is at the same. So what's your relationship? Is he still your best friend, or what's up with that?
We're still good friends. Yeah, we are still good friends. He's led kind of a different path. He's not doing the same things now since he's in the joint, and I'm not doing the same things that I was, and so we're both on the exact same page of completely not messing with anybody that has anything to do with drugs or anything in that life, any type of crime. We completely run away from it, and
Right.
I haven't done my whole time with him, but he just kind of came back to the camp that I was at after about, I bet you're thinking 12, 13 years went by before I seen him again. He just landed here a couple years ago, so
Right.
So yeah, so we've picked back up, and we're both on the straight and narrow, if you will.
Right. And so you were 22 when it happened. So if you don't mind me asking, how old are you now?
I'm 39.
Wow. And I'm not saying that because of like your age, but it's like, damn, like a good chunk of your life has been in prison.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, creeping up on the majority of it.
That's crazy. So
yeah.
before I go more into the aspect of prison and like how life is in there and whatever, but I want to kind of know the Sam before prison. So how was the Sam before prison? Was he getting in trouble? What led to this? There has to be a reason that this all led up to this, and I kind of want to really understand that part first.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we all have reasons for like so as far as the specific crime, if I went to like the specific reasons for this specific crime, I would say that I was drinking a lot. Just like as far as that night, I was sitting there and I knew I need to quit drinking. I'd let drinking get really out of hand to where I was starting to black out and not remember what I was doing. And so drinking really was a thing that I need to not do. And I remember sitting there that night knowing I do not drink at all. And I was sitting there and you know I went and got some alcohol anyways, and then Aaron came and picked me up, went to the bowling alley, kept drinking, and a lot of it had to do with just being a drunk. You end up isolated with not very many friends. I didn't really know that many people out here, especially when I quit selling drugs. All the people that I was hanging out with, that they disappear real quick when you don't sell drugs anymore. And so honestly, a lot of it I was lonely, and so I was just I just drinking alone. He was one of my only friends that I really had out here, and so man, I'd have to say just drinking and loneliness is really what kind of led me to to try to be loyal to the one friend that I had. And so
Right.
I and obviously you can go back and say, well, then why were you drinking, and then this and that, and obviously everybody has their own story with regards to that as to why they're tipping the bottle, and but that's the main reason. It really was just a drunken, lonely place that I was in at the time.
Do you have do you have siblings and stuff?
Yeah, I have two older brothers, both very good souls, hardworking men. My brother Zach, he has a brain tumor, and my other brother, the oldest one, he's healthy, and they both live a really good life with families, with wives and children, and both really upstanding citizens. They've never ventured down the lane of being a criminal.
Right. Now, were you always close with them growing up when you were younger?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, me and my brother Zach, we grew up in bunk beds, and so we shared the same room our whole entire childhood. So as boys, we were a year apart. So when I was in first grade, Zach was in second, Luke was in third, and we did that all the way from elementary through high school. And so
Right.
yeah, we've always been close. When my brother Luke got his first house, he moved me in. Me, Luke, and Zach all lived together. So yeah, we definitely been close.
Right.
Obviously, being in prison for a long time can really strain a relationship, or just it can really put a lot of distance. But
Right.
we still absolutely love each other and do anything we could for each other. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah.
Can I ask you a question? So, knowing that you have such a good relationship with your siblings and knowing that your brothers never went down that path, why didn't you ask your brothers for help before, you know, going down the path that you did?
I at a very young age, I started drink. I can't say very young. I was 14, and I started drinking extremely heavily at 14. Kind of the minute I got the taste in my mouth, I never stopped. And my brother Zach was around me the whole time. And at nighttime, I'd be puking. He'd just be there with me and just be like, "Hey Sam, it's okay." And I think a lot of it, because I started so young, they got used to it. I think they just almost accepted it,
Right.
and so it just became one of those things. It's just kind of like maybe he'll get it together one day, or that's just who Sam is. I think just from the early start, it was normal. You know
Right.
what I
And
mean?
so,
It was.
yeah, no, I look at it kind of like this. Like, it's you guys were like a year apart, right? I think maybe if he was a couple years older than you, it's not like, I feel like your brothers were like your friends, not like a yes, they were your brothers, but they were your friends. But when you have siblings that are a little bit older than you, they kind of become like a parent figure for certain individuals, and they kind of become more
Yeah.
stricter. You know what I mean? So maybe if your siblings were a bit more stricter, being like, "Yo, Sam, like, stop this shit right now. This is not the way that you're gonna do." Like, you know what I mean? I think maybe the outcome would have been different. Now, with that being said, were your parents ever like drinkers, or were they in that type of like were they into any of those things?
No, growing up, no, they weren't. Now, before they became Christians, yeah, they partied and they drank and drugged and did all that. But like my dad, he had like a really just hardcore conversion experience. And the minute he got saved, and like he said, Sam, like God just completely took away all desire to use drugs. Like He was done for me. And my
Mm.
mom, she struggled. It took her a little while. But
Right,
I did not grow up in a home with drug addict or drunk parents in at
right.
all. Like
It was just
not even a little bit.
it's just one of those things that it was kind of, I kind of look at it this way. Sometimes, you have kids that have parents that grew up in different countries and different generations. So when they kind of migrate to other countries, their kids kind of, their life is so much more different than theirs. You know what I mean? And they experience things that maybe parents don't experience. So it's kind of, in a way, I feel like in your case, it was kind of like something kind of was negative that kind of fell on your path, and you took the bait, and it kind of took you down the wrong path, unfortunately. With that being said, now it was your friend, right, that kind of introduced drinking to you, or was it you that just kind of stumbled upon it, if you will?
Yeah, as far as drinking, yeah, I mean, yeah, it was at the time it was somebody that I kind of thought was my friend, but it was just I got the taste of it, caught a buzz, and I
And
just
you like
I was
you like
all in. I was all in. The minute I woke up in the morning, I started drinking. Like I was kind of like an instant alcoholic. I just you
right.
know,
Well,
uh,
also so young.
I stayed blasted.
You were so young. You were 14, so your brain's still developing so much, and so to have that thrown in there, I can't even imagine the effects that it had long term for you. And to like also add the fact that as you grew up, you kind of felt lonely, and you kind of didn't feel like you had no one to turn to, even though you did have your brothers. Maybe your brothers were going through their own things. It was kind of like alcohol kind of became your best friend, because in a way, alcohol can temporarily make you forget things for a bit. You know?
Yeah, I don't think people want to hang out with drunks. I think you do such stupid stuff, and that nobody really wants to be around an alcoholic. Alcohol, when you're drinking or any type of drug, the only people that you hang out with are people that are alcoholics.
Yeah.
And it just has a way of isolating you and really making you kind of a lonely soul, just because that's the nature of the beast. Like people don't want somebody that's drunk at 9 o'clock in the morning at your house. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh no, for sure. I mean, yeah, no, that's just right. So okay, so fast forward, the crime was committed, you got sentenced. Now you're in so now you're at court, and they gave you your kind of sentence. What was your reaction when you heard you are getting life? What was your brother's reaction? What were your parents' reaction? What was that whole thing?
Yeah, yeah. So when I look back, my mom just kind of collapsed. My brother Zach carried my mom out of the courtroom. She was done. Like it was a lot. Those were the only two reactions that I remember looking back and seeing. And I was numb. It was just a lot. And I went back and sat in front of the crapper, the steel toilet, and just kind of felt like I was gonna puke. I never did, but I would just. It was a lot. I mean, it's a lot when you're 22 years old. And by that time, when they sentenced me, when I was found guilty, I was probably 23 by the time I was, found guilty and went through trial and all that. But yeah, it was heavy. It was real heavy. When you don't get in trouble like that type of trouble, and then you don't understand, you don't really appreciate what's happening, and you make really dumb decisions, I think. And it's yeah, you don't have family members that have all been criminals and say, hey, do this, get this lawyer, do that. This is the best way to navigate that. You really just kind of the system ends up kind of leading you down the path to go, and yeah, you just don't have the knowledge to go through it properly, and so you make
No,
a lot of really dumb decisions along the way.
Right. No, honestly, Sam, the minute you said that, like, listen, I know some people, you might just say, like, no one's really scared of that. Listen, listen, for anybody listening, don't do anything dumb, because literally it's not worth it. Like, Sam can be the first one to admit being like, listen, it ain't worth it. And like, I just can't imagine you turning around. You probably didn't even want to turn around. You probably even got more scared seeing your parents' reaction to the whole thing. Like, it's real, you know?
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard. It was hard seeing what it did to my mom. You know,
Yeah.
it was, and you know, like the different types of crimes. So the guy was shot in the ankle, and it was a total accident. I didn't mean to shoot the guy in the ankle. It was, there was a struggle over a gun, and so in my head I was like, well, I didn't mean to shoot this dude, and so there's no way that I'm guilty of like first degree murder. But in Kansas, the way the laws are, they have this thing called felony murder, and it's this: if in the course of an inherently dangerous felony somebody dies, it doesn't matter if it's an accident. It don't matter. It don't matter about anything. If somebody dies while you committed a felony, you're going down for first degree murder. And I was like, and so they charged me with a bunch of kidnappings. I'm like, I didn't kidnap nobody. Like in my head, I'm like, I didn't put duct tape on anybody. I didn't ever have a gun the whole night until the end after the man who had a gun to my friend's head had shot the gun until I got out of his hand. Like I never had the gun the whole night. I never tied anybody up. I never put anybody in the trunk. I never did all these things. So I went to trial thinking I didn't kidnap nobody, so I'm not guilty of any murder. It's like I was found guilty of the kidnappings based upon what the other people had done that night. And so it's called being an accomplice. And so whatever your friends do that night, you were just as guilty as them. And so I didn't know that. So I went into the court system and the laws thinking that I knew what I was doing and thinking that I understood what was happening when I didn't have a clue about actual law. And the law and then what happens in a movie is different.
Right. No, wait. So hold on. But you're from Washington. This happened in Kansas. What were you doing down there?
I came down here because when I was 18, I was strung out on meth, and one of my best friends, his parents were rich, and they had friends everywhere, and they sent their son out here to Kansas, and he had gotten sober, and I called him and he was my best friend at the time. I said, hey man, what are you doing? He's like, man, I'm down here, I'm doing good. He's like, you should come down here and get sobered up. And so I came down here and got sobered up, and that's where I met my what they call a fall partner, which is just the person that you caught your case with, and my new best friend, and so I come out here to kick a meth habit, and it worked, and that's why I come back out here again when I was 22, because I was struggling with the same drug again after I'd gone back to Washington. I couldn't seem to kick it, and so I was like, man, I got to come back to Kansas where I know that I can get sober. They just don't really have that type of a
right.
drug problem out here. Maybe they do now, but
right.
Yeah.
So you were really addicted to those substances.
I couldn't wake up without it when I was 18. So I go ahead.
You couldn't wake up without it. Like you couldn't wake up without having that, like meth.
Yeah. It took me about almost 2 months just to be able to wake up, like, and stay up for like a 8 to 10, 12-hour day. Yeah, I was just fried. I just did too much for too long of a period of time, and just became dependent on it just to wake up. And so, yeah, it was one of those things that I had to kick. And once I kicked that type of a habit, my habit never got to where I couldn't wake up without it. But
right.
I started using it in different ways and started shooting it up and started. It started really, as I got older, it started mentally really breaking me down. So have you ever been to one of those big cities and you see this person at a bus stop and they're sitting there and they're smoking crack and they're talking to themselves? Like, that's what it was doing to me, to where I would, even when I was drinking, I'd start talking to myself. Like it just mentally fried me. Like it did a number. Like now Like if you see me, you wouldn't like look at me and say, "Oh man, that's a crackhead or that's a meth addict." Just because I've been sober for so long, that thank God the effects didn't just stay with me for life. But at the time, yeah, man, I was fried.
That's crazy. So, okay. So this is a lot. So that's crazy. Like that's just no, it's insane. Like anyway, my gosh, don't do drugs. Is basically what we're all trying to say here. People who's listening, don't do it. It ain't worth it. But so okay, so when you got into prison, and like, were you like, because listen, prison is scary. Like you can ask Porsche, she knows how I feel about it. It is not a place that anybody wants to be at. Now, with that being said, I also know like you're not like, you're like, if you show fear in prison, it's never going to be a good outcome. So how did you try to maneuver through? Because you're not a 6'7" guy, right? I think you're like you're 5'6",
No.
right?
I'm a little fella. I'm not exactly somebody that you'd like walk up to and be like, "Oh man, I'm nervous. This guy could really hurt me." Like, yeah, I'm 5'7" with a good pair of shoes on. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a big dude.
Right.
So yeah, and the little county that I fell out of, it was tiny. So I'd come from a tiny county jail. And so when I first come to what they call an RDU center, and it's basically like a diagnostic center where you first come in, I'm like, this place just looked huge. It was like a never-ending, like, just razor wire. And I just remember sitting there being like, what did I get myself into? And when I was in county jail, all the people that I was around, they'd done time, in Oklahoma and Missouri. And so they were telling me, hey, this is how you have to behave going in there. And so I took that with me. And I think it caused more problems for me than I realized, and but I navigated the best I could. I had a lot of pickles, a lot of run-ins with a lot of people. And to be honest with you, so like the worst thing you can do in prison is check in. Like it's at least in American prison, like there's nothing that they frown upon more than doing that. And I remember sitting there like, I don't know how many nights, maybe this probably happened maybe 2 or 3 times. And we're all locked down, and I'm knowing that a bunch of stuff was set on the run, and that I have to go to the yard early in the morning and possibly fight these guys, or I don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? It's just some whatever type of stuff. I remember sitting there, I was like, God, if I had 3 years, I would check in right now. And you know what I mean? Like, and that's who I really was in my heart. Like, I'm not built for this. Like, I don't want to go to yard and get stabbed to death. Like, I'm freaked out. And I just remember, I just would pray. Like, and that's really one of the things that like really like changed me, is I was just like, Jesus, like, I know that I'm not a good person, but like, I'm scared, and like I need help. And it's like he just gave me enough strength to go face all these different people all the time, the whole time I was behind the walls. And almost every time, without exception, I never had to back down from anybody. Always the person would be like, hey man, I'm sorry. Hey, it was a misunderstanding. And I just, over the course of time, it really changed my mind. I was like, man, like, this God who I thought never protected me, never had my back growing up, who abandoned me to the wolves, I was like, all of a sudden, my life's really on the line. And these guys that are not necessarily like gentle souls, or just their mind and heart has changed towards me. I'm not having to think and get stabbed. You know what I mean? And I was just, and it was kind of this weird epiphany, like, man, I can trust God. And that was probably one of my most pivotal like moments where I was just like, kind of like, man, I'm not alone in this. You know what I mean? Like, I have help in my deepest, darkest place, in my most hopeless moments in my life. I have somebody I can count on, and that was big for me. That was a big moment. And like I said, I've never been in a gang. I don't pick up knives. I don't have like, I didn't grow up as a kickboxer or anything like that. And it's like, I just seen God protect me the whole time I was down. Even to this day, I'm almost 17 years in now, and I've only been in one fight the whole entire time I've been in prison, and it was really my fault. I could have just shut my mouth, and it was really my fault. And God was gracious to me in that, And so yeah, I've really I've really been blessed, even though it's been a difficult road.
That being said, so okay, so with that being said, you talked about religion, you talked about how it helped you kind of change your outlook and things like that, but tell me kind of like the whole like how, because prison does have a negative effect on someone's mentality. Have you struggled with that as well in prison?
Yeah, it's a huge struggle. I mean, so when I was first down, so I'd sit in a max cell, and we all talk to ourselves, I think, to some degree, but I started noticing that I was doing that, and I was kind of worried about, like, I bet everybody does this, and I don't know if that's helpful, and that's probably just just sitting there and being alone. It's probably just the effect of it. But one of the things that I noticed that it really affected me is I would sit in a max tank all day, get out very little, but the few times that I get out of my cell, I was scared to even look at anybody. Like, I just wanted to get back to my cell. Like, I'd been in that cell so much that I felt safe in there that I didn't even want to even leave my cell, even to go get food. I was like, I hate having to go here and get food, just because every time I go to the chow hall, maybe not every time, but they're fighting, and spraying the mace, and it's an unpleasant experience.
You know
so
what's
yeah, it made me antisocial.
Do you know what's crazy about that? What you just said. So you said how you liked staying alone in that prison cell. You didn't want to go out and socialize, or didn't whatever. You didn't want to even get food or whatever. But it's crazy because a couple of years back when you were in Washington, you were drinking because you were lonely and you didn't want to be alone, and you had that one friend. But kind of now that you're in prison, it switched. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
Right. When you were
and maybe you get used to it,
Yeah, it's like when you were in Washington, it was kind of like, listen, I got nobody. I'm going to drink my way to figure it out or to forget about it. Fast forward, you're sent to prison, and it's like, now I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to be alone. I want to stay myself. You almost got okay with the idea of being alone. Like, you were happy being alone versus being with people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I think a lot of it is the type of people back there. Everybody was trying to get over on you. Like, it was just nonstop. It seemed like everybody had an angle. Like, I remember this one guy, he owed me a stamp, so he gives me the stamp. And everybody's like, hey, let me see that stamp. And so I showed it to him. He's like, this stamp, he did something to where he erased the ink on it and then gave me the stamp. And so, like, they found ways to, like, reuse the stamp. I'm like, dude, nothing, even for 40 cents, somebody will screw you. Like, and I was just like, so just being around that, and everybody's hustling, everybody's trying to take advantage of somebody, like, it was like, these are not the people I want to become friends with. And the more friends you have, it seemed like the more liability you had, like the more people you were obligated to. And so
right.
I think a lot of it was that too. You're just like, dude, like, these friends can really sneaky get me into a lot of trouble. And most of the trouble you'd find yourself in was, hey, this guy got it with this guy, and so because you're white, you have to go and be with the white people, because you can't let anybody jump on a white person. It's just prison politics, and it was just kind of like, it was stressful.
It's crazy to think that there's like hierarchies and politics and racism in a place where everybody's done a crime. It's not like everybody's a saint there. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's done something wrong, but yet they still want to argue and say, listen, this is you're not at this level, or blah, blah, blah. It's just that whole thing is just crazy for me. So have you ever gotten in trouble in prison? Like, have you seen things that just mentally kind of wrecked you?
No, I don't think I've ever seen anything that's mentally wrecked me.
Okay,
I can't say anything's mentally wrecked me. I wouldn't be able to say that at all. Honestly, I feel like prison saved my life.
Okay, well, there you guys go. That's Sam's message for y'all. But yeah, thank you so much, Sam. I wish you all the best. Please stay safe.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, do good. And you also have a like a podcast too, right? Do you want to say that? You want to just shout it out real quick?
Yeah. Me and Abe do one. It's called the Underground Railroad. Yeah, it's obviously a religious bented thing. That's obviously what's most primary to us. But yeah, we do a thing called the Underground Railroad with Porsche.
Perfect. You guys should all check it out. But anyway, my name's Angie. Thank you so much for tuning into Angie's Angles, and I'll see you on my next episode.